can hear this because I've just moved the microphone to a different position. It looks like. Anyway, part 5. I could see that my brother was very keen on the idea and would have gone that very evening without worrying about something as mundane as packing a washing kit or clothes, although I'm sure his precious bike would have soon been on the roof rack. The picture that my father painted of life on the high seas, visiting foreign shores and living a free and easy bohemian life with no cares, would appeal to any young man, especially my brother, who shared a carefree personality with my father. They both looked at me for my decision. My expression must have given the game away. I knew that I could never walk out on my mother, even though there were many times I'd wished myself 1,000 miles away from her. I began to think how I was going to tell her that my brother had gone away on a boat with his half-brothers, his stepmother, and the man she'd just divorced. The prospect sent a cold shiver down my back, and sweat broke out on my forehead. I think I'd be safer going with them. I stammered that I would think about it overnight, and would let him know my decision tomorrow morning. This seemed to be accepted. After all, it was a life-changing decision, and one that was not easily rectified if things did not work out. I made my apologies, thanked him for the food and drink, and left. My brother stayed with him, and I did wonder whether he would ever come home again, or be totally beguiled by these tall stories and hit the high seas. Strangely, it never occurred to me that his far-fetched stories weren't true. It was just the lack of responsibility and his total absence of concern for my mother and my gran, and how they would cope when they learned what was planned. I knew only too well how badly one could be treated when times were rough, and could easily imagine what would happen to us if money was short or if we were ill and wanted to return home. I was to learn many years later how the Argonauts had fared and what our future would have been. When I arrived home, my mother had also just got in from work. I was not pleased to see me. Situation normal. I suddenly had been to the youth club and had forgotten the time, and crossed my fingers behind my back. I could see she did not believe me, but she was too tired to start a fight, thank God. I beat a hasty retreat to my bedroom and lay awake thinking about the incredible events of that day. It was early morning when I heard my brother climb the creaking stairs, trying to avoid the noisy ones by walking on the edges. He opened the door carefully and threw himself down on his bed. We both held our breaths, listening for Mum's door to open. There was no sound from next door. "Where have you been?" I whispered. "Oh, we just talked, then went for a drive to Portsmouth to see his boat, some of his old haunts." My brother said this far too casually. I knew he was having second thoughts, and had not been impressed by what he'd seen. Perhaps one day all this will be yours was too near the truth. Well, we'd arranged to meet him in the same pub as the previous meeting, at around noon. So imagine my surprise when he turned up on the doorstep and rang the bell. Gran, who was in the kitchen, answered the door, wiping her hands on her apron as she walked up the hallway, and on opening the door let out a cry. "Good Lord, what are you doing here? Don't let Phil catch you, or there'll be trouble." We could not hear the reply as the door was open only about 6 inches, as Gran was fearful of my mother suddenly arriving. I heard Gran say, "Go away now, come back when Phil's at work, then I'll give you a meal." But Gran's luck was out. Mum came crashing down the stairs, pushing her out of the way, and launched a verbal attack on my father, so vicious and ferocious that fishwives would have blushed. We all stood wide-eyed and open-mouthed, and feared for her sanity. What an onslaught! The tirade finished. Mum slammed the door, shaking all the windows and rattling the crockery on the sideboard, We ducked back into the dining room and waited for the backlash. "You idiot! Don't ever let me hear you've opened the door to him again. Oh, you all wish you hadn't." Mum's face was about an inch from Gran's as she spat these words out at the top of her voice. Gran looked pale and shaken. And this time, there was no little face for us. Just a few tears to be wiped away with the corner of her apron, and a look of utter defeat as she turned wearily to climb the stairs to her room. "Bloody well stay there and keep out of my way in the future," Mum shouted after her. Then she turned her attention to us. "That bloody useless article wanted to take you two away on his yacht. That's a laugh. Can't even afford to pay your maintenance. I had to put him in prison last time." Then her eyes darkened and her face grew taut, and she lowered her voice. "Go if you want to. Get out, the pair of you. But if you do, never come near me again, or I won't be responsible for my actions." She waited for a response. I opened my mouth to say how I would like to stay, but no words came out. I was struck dumb. "Think about it," she yelled. She picked up her bag and walked to the front door. There she stopped and looked back at us, and whatever was on her lips was never spoken, and perhaps that was just as well, for it may have changed history. She shut the door, and we watched her shadow disappear. And it was some time before either of us spoke. We both knew we'd have to stay, but also that we wished we'd gone when we had the chance.